effects on our environment. And let's talk about the eco-conscious citizens. That's a conservation group that is actually calling on government to review its policy that may lead eventually to a ban on single-use plastics. There's a need for us to expand that conversation. Fortunately, joining us in studio is a co-coordinator of the eco-conscious citizens, Awula Serwah. Thank you so much for your time here in studio. So here we are again. The issue of flooding is with us. We're seeing the effects on our communities. And part of the problem, you agree, has got to do with plastics.
Yes. I mean, we look at our draining system. We look at our gutters. People think they are rubbish cans, and therefore they put their rubbish there. And if you were to look at about 90%, if not more, of our refuse, it happens to be single-use plastics. So we are saying that the time has come to take robust measures and to ban single-use plastics. In fact, 3rd July was the International Day for, against plastics,
right.
Single-use plastics, where we're encouraging people, if you go to the supermarket, wherever you go, don't take plastic bags. Go armed with your basket, your reusable bag, whatever. There's no need to take plastic bags. So, and the whole of July is a month that we are devoting to not using plastics, because going forward, we are saying that there's no need for single-use plastics. We managed before the 70s. Plastics actually were invented in the late 60s and began to have the current use in the 70s. So what were we doing before single-use plastics came into being?
That's an interesting question. And I'm sure that a lot of people will be wondering, what's really going to be the alternative? Because almost everything we do when we buy items, they are mostly packaged in plastic materials.
Yes, it's a question of going back and rather moving forward. We've seen our drains, we've seen our open spaces. In fact, Kenya, Malawi, Rwanda, Tanzania, to name a few forward-looking countries when it comes to single-use plastics, they've banned it. And one of the reasons why Kenya did it, they looked at the flooding and they realized that the plastics were contributing towards the flooding. People are still living. All you need to do is to be a bit responsible. In your handbag, in your bag, in your car, wherever, have a tote bag, a reusable bag, a cloth bag, take it with you. So when you go to the shops, you don't need to take their plastic bags. I'm very, very sad that even that today, when you go to buy kinky, after they've put it in the leaves, they actually put plastics, banku, everything. First of all, there are health issues. The plastics are not supposed to be for very hot items. And before a few years ago, we never saw kinky in plastic bags. So we're beginning to have habits that are unhelpful and unhealthy. 20, 30 years ago, what did we do? When we're going shopping, what did we do? Let's try and think. And the good news is that there are several companies in Ghana, we don't need to import, in Ghana, that are actually making what you call reusable bags, not the bags that you just use once and then you throw away, contributing.
And help us understand the dynamics in terms of the differences, because for someone on the streets, an average person who's not too concerned about the dynamics, plastics is plastics.
Yes, plastic is plastic. Some would say ban plastics totally.
Right.
But when we say use single-use plastics, we are talking about plastics that you use just once and then you discard.
Okay.
For example, a plastic bag you use to carry your shopping. Some people will use it later on as a refuse bag, put their rubbish in it before they put it in the big container. Others will just, throw it in a gutter or what have you. You have, for example, the cling foil that people use to put the kinky or whatever. When we say single-use plastics, we are thinking of plastics that you use on only one occasion, like gloves, and then you throw them away. So we are saying that those are not particularly helpful. So, for example, we're not saying a total ban because things need to be done in perspective. But something we can do yesterday is to ban single-use plastics. When you're walking around, you see lots of woven baskets. In the north, they make beautiful baskets. This is also encouraging home industry. There's a lady I mentioned who makes bags from plantain, banana waste, and also from corn husks. There's so many people who are doing things. Let's encourage them. And let's look at our environment, look at our open spaces. Another reason why Tanzania, for instance, banned plastics is that when they were discarded and they ended up in the open spaces, the livestock that were grazing ingested them. And therefore, when you slaughtered them, they had plastics in them. The same thing is happening in Ghana with our fishes. They've ingested the plastics that we carelessly throw away that have entered our water bodies. So there's a real clear and present danger. We can't take it for granted. Also, people do burning. They burn their rubbish. They mix the plastics. And we know that when you burn plastics, harmful toxins are released. That is not helping us. And in fact, if you look at the figures, the number of deaths from air pollution is rising. We should ask ourselves why.
But then, in terms of the global movement and even the national movement, we're not getting so much support for this move for a ban on plastics, because it would obviously have an impact on corporations that obviously produce these materials. How do we find a good balance then?
Well, you know, there are different ways of operating. As I said, I mean, Kenya is a beacon. We have so many Eastern African countries, also India, other countries which have taken the lead. In the UK, for instance, they haven't banned single-use plastics. But what they have done is that when you go to the shopping mall, where in the past you got plastic bags free, you now pay for them. And because you have to pay for them, not a huge amount, consumers are quite interesting. They've now started buying what you call the bag for life, which obviously, as the name implies, lasts for a very long time. You can be replaced. It was only £1. I'm told it's now £1.50 or so. And therefore, they're not using plastic bags. So the use of plastic bags has gone down significantly since the high tax was put, which was passed down to consumers because shoppers pay for it. So there are different ways of making us see that we don't need plastic bags. And the manufacturers, I'm sure they can find something more productive to produce. But as it is now, there's a lot of conflict of interest. Some of those who should take the decisions have friends who produce plastic bags or import them, and they're not ready to make the changes now. But I think the writing is on the wall. We looked at the recent flooding, we've looked at the environment, and I think what we need to do, but I'm calling also on consumers, because if you didn't take the plastic bags, the manufacturers will realize that they're not going to manufacture an item that nobody's using. So there's consumer power. Consumers should be responsible. Have your cloth bags or jute bags or tote bags or whatever. Take them when you're going shopping and make sure you don't take plastic bags from the shops.
But give us an idea of what an individual could do, for instance, just to be eco-conscious as well. What practical measures can one just put in place to, say, reduce the dependency on this source of single-use plastics? I mean, how do you avoid it generally?
Okay, for one thing, go and buy a basket. Go and buy a jute bag or a tote bag or a cloth bag. They sell them around. First of all, go and buy them. Second of all, if for some reason you already have some in the house, you can put your rubbish in it. You know, when you're planting trees, sometimes people nurse them in plastic bags. So one practical step you can do is to go and purchase, I should have brought some with me,
right.
Go and purchase reusable bags so that you're not part of the problem, you're part of the solution. Another thing you can do is to plant trees. That's also part of taking care of the environment, purifying the environment, ensuring that our source of clean energy from the trees is increased, and then we give them our carbon dioxide. So this is one little thing we can do. Refuse to use a plastic bag. It doesn't cost you that much to either get a basket or a cloth bag, a bag that you can use on many occasions. Invest in one.
But practically speaking,
yes.
You know that this is about attitude. And generally, most of us, I must confess as well, I'm very reliant on these sorts of plastics that you're talking about. We use them almost every day. So asking someone to go in for some of these alternatives you're talking about may be quite difficult.
But you know, I ask myself, how difficult is it really? I said about in the 70s, right. When you were going shopping, people like you went shopping. We didn't start going shopping today. We've been going shopping for quite a while. They managed. There were no plastic bags then. I know some of the shops gave paper bags. You took your basket with you. You were responsible. You knew you were going shopping. So you had a means of putting your shopping in, whether it was a basket or whatever. So starting from today, you have a car, make sure that your car always has these reusable bags. You're not using a car, if you have a handbag, you put it in. That's very, very practical. And also the shop should start selling what you call bags for life. So you've forgotten to take something. Oh no, I forgot this, I have to go and buy. It should be supplied in the shop. So of course, another step is getting the shops, instead of stocking plastic bags, please stock the reusable bags as well. So that is something the shops should do. But I'm saying in the chain, we're all involved, from me to those who should take the decision to ban single-use plastic.
And for instance, if you talk about, say, the delivery of food items as well, the packages and almost everything you see now is in plastics.
Okay, I mean, there's a place where I sometimes get grills from. It's called Zwen Grills. I'm very impressed with them. I mean, their packaging, you don't have to use plastics. You can use different things. And they also use a cloth bag to put it in. They don't put it in plastic bags. So I've been quite impressed with them. So, I mean, we all can take a step. If, for example, there were no plastics, we would manage. We're not going, life won't come to an end. So it's a question of being proactive. So the challenge we are throwing is at the whole of July, and I hope after July, for the end of the world, I'm asking people listening to this wonderful program not to use plastic bags. Ghanaians or human beings are intelligent, we are creative. If plastic bags were banned today, you're not going to stop shopping. You're going to continue. So there are alternatives.
It's doable?
For them.
It's doable?
Sure. Of course it's doable. How are Kenya, Malawi, Tanzania, Rwanda, how are they managing?
And I guess that's where the issue of policy comes in. Some believe, well, if you make it a matter of government policy, or it comes from the top, order from above, we'll all comply and no one will use plastics again. Is this solely about policy?
Well, policy has a role to play. If today the government says that from September 2022, single-use plastics have been banned, obviously those that are already in the system, we need to recycle them. By the way, Ghana recycles only 8% of its rubbish.
Only 8%?
Yes, you can please go and just check the figures, only 8%. Even in countries like Germany, where they recycle, if my research is correct, about 60-something%, they don't recycle everything. So there's still a big gap, and that is why it's urgent to ban single-use plastic. But if the government were to, place a ban today, we'll all have to fall in line or face prosecution. But I'm saying that, decisions come from different levels. Consumers are more powerful than they think. You are buying the plastic bag or using them when you go to the shops. If you don't use them, why would they be produced? So although the easiest thing would be for government to ban it, in the meantime, whilst we are putting pressure on government, we are also responsible citizens, active citizens, not spectators. And we are complicit when we also use the plastic bags. Of course, all of us, I mean, it comes, we are forgotten, we need something handy. I'll put my hands up and say, I can't say I've never used single-use plastic bag. Of course, we all fall short once in a while, but we don't need to wait for the ban to take place. We can decide that from today, we're going to be responsible. We're going to make sure, ladies, put it in your handbag, gentlemen, carry it somewhere, your car, whatever. And make sure you do not use plastic bags. When you're going shopping, when it's not on the spur of the moment, you've decided either have a basket, have a container, have anything. And here, remember, I'm not saying don't use any form of plastic. Like I said, single-use plastics. And I'm focusing on carrier plastic bags that we put our shoppings in. Afterwards, we just sort of discard them.
We've seen campaigns that, for instance, you've run about conserving our forests. We've seen the one you've done on the Achimota forest, for instance. So with regard particularly to the use of plastics, are we likely to see some action on the streets, maybe asking people and urging them to change their attitude?
Well, on 3rd July, we did have some action. I mean, I personally was on the streets, in my neighborhood, talking to people. And the first reaction you have is, actually, the whole country, let me not say the whole country, I mean, parts of the country are dirty because of plastic bags, all over the place. And one thing I would say is that we have unemployment. Why don't we get task forces that walk around? If you drop something on the spot fines and so on and so forth, you can pay them from the fine. I guarantee you that if we were to do that, the litter would be greatly reduced. People in their cars just littering left, right, center. If you started making sure that they are prosecuted or just fined on the spot fines, it will stop. So I'm saying that these are the things you can do one-to-one, talking to your friends, contacts, and so on. But yes, we did do some, street campaigning 3rd July.
We need to go, but your message to our viewers, I'm sure that many of them are convinced at least on what you're saying, but what will be that final word to them, just to remind them on the use of plastics?
My final word is that we can't leave everything to government. We should all be responsible citizens. We said that plastics are, apart from making the country unsightly, when we see the plastics littered around, they are also entering the water bodies and polluting them. Our fish are ingesting them, which means that it's being passed on to us. The cattle, livestock are also ingesting them. So be responsible. Stop using plastic bags. Take a carrier bag with you or a basket when going shopping. Thank you very much.
Right, and that's Awula Serwah, founder and coordinator for the Eco-Conscious Citizens. We're still keeping our eyes on the